in people saying, not only do you have to show me, but because I demand that of you, I'm willing to show you that we can get the job done and get it done well. And I listen as I watch across the country stories of various states being played out. And you hear about the bankruptcies, and you hear about the financial tensions, and you hear about the exodus of business, and you hear about the arrival of opportunity in various settings. And suddenly you realize that what happens in state capitals is directly relevant to the prosperity and potential of the people of that state. And for a long time there were people who thought they could legislate themselves into some kind of easier circumstance or richer existence. And the population drain is underway. The mobility of modernity and the competitiveness of various environments is a striking challenge to all of us to make Missouri a place where we maximize the potential of the citizenry here. And we do so by liberating the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the opportunity to be productive in ways that the world will demand. So I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm thrilled at the start of this session that you can focus on that. Let me just indicate the Senate President Pro Tem, Rob and I were talking on the way in. I believe there's a window of opportunity. I believe that there is a substantial and widespread disenchantment with governance at the national level in particular. And you know that it's a widespread understanding if that awareness of it has actually penetrated the Beltway itself. Because the bubble of arrogance has actually been pricked. And people say, the people believe we have failed. And as the debt mounts up and the value is not seen to compensate for the elevation in debt has not been accompanied by an elevation in value, people are looking elsewhere for solutions. It means that people will be looking to the laboratories of democracy, to the states. And some of the states are out touting it. You see the governor of Texas on television talking about the drain from the far west and the cultures that have thought they could vote themselves into prosperity and enact and regulate themselves into an ownership of all the capital of entrepreneurial energy. And he says the real gain is going to environments that allow for people to flourish and prosper. So we're at a time of great opportunity. The nation is looking to state capitals. And the opportunity in state capitals to signal that there will be opportunity, development, growth, that there will be an energy devoted to the creation of an environment where business prospers and then shares that prosperity with the community through the jobs that we all want and care about. That's really at the heart of what you're going to be dealing with. I had the privilege of serving the United States of America at a very serious time. And when the day after 9/11 I appeared at the president's office to begin to assemble the resources that it would be necessary to assemble in order for us to respond to the significant assault that had been levied against the United States. The president looked in my direction and said, "Don't ever let this happen again." It put the pressure on. I think the American people are looking to governance right now and they're saying, don't ever let this happen again. Don't let us get into a position where we are so behind in our ability to be responsible for our own expenditures. Don't let us get into a position where we don't have a capacity to be on parity productively with the rest of the world. Don't get us in a deep hole. And I think there is a freedom issue here, which I just might, as an aside, mention to you. The expenditure of the resources of generations to come is a freedom issue. This nation began because people cared about somebody else making decisions about what to do with their resources. Taxation without representation. We are fast becoming a nation spending the resources of the next generation that is unrepresented. And when they come to elect representatives a few years from now and find out that those representatives' hands are tied because the decisions have already been made about how the money will be spent, there will be a real deficit in terms of freedom. So we need to unleash the economic capacity of this nation to move forward so that we can have a kind of freedom for people in the setting of adequate resources to fund those things that are necessary, and adequate freedom to allow the energy of enterprise to conduct the business successfully. When regulation gets to be pretty pervasive, it can be very challenging. Upon leaving the Attorney General's office, I took about half dozen of the very best of the people in the Justice Department, and we assembled them in the business which I now have the privilege of conducting. Catherine Hanaway is one of the U.S. attorneys. Mike Sullivan, who is the U.S. attorney in Boston, Massachusetts, another one of the U.S. attorneys. He was also the head of the alcohol, tobacco, firearms part of the United States government. We had U.S. attorneys from Dallas and Austin and various cities. And we thought we would try and help people involved in their encounters with the bureaucracy to be compliant and to operate without infringing the responsibilities that they had to the federal government. Turns out it's a pretty significant challenge for many international concerns that are facing regulatory environments in a variety of settings, maybe 50 different environments in states, a federal regulatory environment, and then maybe another 60 or 80 environments around the world. And they're up against what's known as the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in the event that they violate the laws of foreign governments, or if in their inducement to try and get businesses in foreign settings provide inducements which are improper through kickbacks or otherwise, they are in violation of the laws of the United States. Let me just indicate to you that the United States has been the moral and business and ethical leader in this arena for a long time, and I'm grateful for that. If you bribe a foreign official in the United States, it's not just a crime against that foreign government, it's a crime against the United States of America, because as an American you did it. Let me just say, in contrast to that, 20 years ago in Germany, if you bribed a foreign official, they gave you a tax deduction. It was a business expense for the payoff you made to the foreign official. I had the privilege of signing the International Convention Against Corruption was signed in Mexico late in my term as Attorney General, and I signed on behalf of the United States of America. The world has come to this position of understanding that corruption is a tax on the poor. You know, when the business gives a kickback to a public official, that should have been a lower price by the business to the country rather than a kickback to the official. There's a story told about third world country cabinet officials, a new one, who goes to one of the receptions for cabinet officials, and he looks around at the appointments and the residence of the cabinet official and says, "My, this place is nice. These draperies and the crown molding." He said, "I know what we make as cabinet officials. How do you get a house that looks like this?" And the old hand in the cabinet said, "Come over here." Stands by the window and he points up the river and says, "You see that bridge over the river?" The new guy says, "Yeah, I do." He said, he taps his wallet, says, 10% right there. Wow. You come back the next year, the new guy, they're having the reception at his house. The old guy is stunned. Crystal chandeliers. Not just wall-to-wall carpet, but Persian rugs. Not just crown molding, but molded ceiling. He says, "How do you do it?" The new guy walks over and says, "Come over to the window." The guy says, "Yeah, how do you do it?" He says, "See that bridge up there on the river?" The old guy says, "I don't see any bridge." New guy